Hi, it's Trisha here from Everything Energetic. I am an animal communicator and I'm also a healer and energy worker. And I'm also a bit of a geek about statistics, as some of you know by now. And I quite like running little surveys about things that come up when I'm doing animal communication sessions. And so this week I suddenly thought, I wonder how many horses are actually affected in this lifetime by things that have happened to them in previous lifetimes. So I thought I'd run a survey and I did it today. I got people to post a photo of their horse and its name, and then I use my big fancy pendulum and a couple of charts to ask two questions. So what I asked was, first off, is this horse adversely affected in this lifetime by things that happened to it in a previous lifetime? And if that answer was a yes, I then asked, to what extent are they being affected by that? And I'm really fascinated by the results. So let me just get my little spreadsheet here. So actually I better change this so I can still see you guys. The result of the survey is that of 103 horses that I checked, only one had no past life issues affecting it in this lifetime. One out of 103. And one had minimal past life issues affecting it. By minimal, I mean 10%. So it's pretty low. What's even more interesting than that, or at least as interesting, is that of the rest, so 102 horses, they were adversely affected from 70% right through to 95% adversely affected. That's a lot. So I'm asking on a chart that's got 0 to 100 on it, to what extent is this horse adversely affected by things that happened to it in a previous lifetime? And of those 102 horses, 101 horses, all of the answers, all of the measurements were between 70% and 95%. That's really high. I couldn't believe it. So basically, they are mostly very adversely affected by things that have happened to them in previous lifetimes. So I'm going to give a bit more thought as to what I can do about that and how I can help them. I did rebalance one horse today and I thought, okay, I'll put this part in as well. And so I cleared her of all past life issues and rebalanced her and asked the owner to let me know if she noticed any difference. However, that particular horse is only 20 months old, so it's possible that you wouldn't see a huge difference anyway. So I'm going to start including this in all of my horse communication readings from now on. That will be part of it. And I'll have to think about whether I can do it as a standalone thing in some way. And I'll keep you posted about that. So I hope you find that interesting. I thought it was fascinating, and just one more thing that they need help with and might explain, to some extent at least, some of the behavior that you might be experiencing with your horse that seems kind of, a bit out there. So I hope you found that interesting. I'll just check my comments now. So Kim said, so interesting, I'd never considered this. I know for some reason it hadn't really occurred to me before. I will tell you this. If anyone else has questions, do feel free to jump in now. I routinely, partly because I'm insatiably curious and a bit of a geek, and I like statistics, I routinely, when I'm doing horse communication sessions, I ask how many incarnations as a horse that horse has had. So how many previous lives has it had as a horse and as other things? Because I find that really interesting. And I'm checking to see how spiritually mature they are as well, because that's interesting, and that tells us something about why they might be here and what they might be capable of. But for some reason it hadn't occurred to me that if they've had all these previous lifetimes, that might actually be causing them an issue until yesterday or today. So I'm glad that it popped into my head. The time was obviously right and that I asked those questions. I think that 103 is a pretty good sample size. Apologies to all of you who I didn't get to. I lost the will to live after 100. I couldn't do any more. But I think that's a pretty good sample. V's asking, the horse that wasn't really affected by past life issues, had the owner done any work regards healing that already? One of the horse that only measured 10%, I know that horse. And as far as I know, I'm the only person that's done any kind of healing on that horse, and I haven't worked specifically on past lives. The horse that tested as 0, no past life issues, I don't know that horse, so I'll be contacting that owner, and I'll be interested to hear what she says about that horse's character, personality, behaviour. That'll be quite interesting. And what I'll do probably at some point is put all this into a blog post, so there's, you know, more detail there. Kim says, were many of them horses? And yeah. This is, I'm talking about previous lives as horses, not previous lives as things. So yes, they've all been horses before. Olivia says some horses are very old souls. Yeah, absolutely. And she has a horse that feels quite new here. Yeah. And it's interesting when I'm checking in with them and when I'm asking that question about how many incarnations they've had as a horse, those that have only had 1 or 2 incarnations previously as a horse feel very different to the ones that have had a lot of incarnations as a horse. So yeah, if you can feel energy at all, you can probably sense that from your horse, whether they're a bit of an old soul or spiritually mature. The other thing I find about the more spiritually mature horses is that they are more able to keep themselves energetically in balance, because that's one of the things I check in every session too. And most horses need rebalancing, but when they are more spiritually mature, they seem better able to maintain themselves in a good balance. Any other questions? Oh, Kim says, do they always reincarnate as horses? No. When I ask, what I do is I ask if their previous lifetimes as a horse have been consecutive or not, and if not, what else have they been? And sorry to keep you on tenterhooks, but I'm not going to tell you the answer right now. I'll probably put it in the blog post when I write it. But there are only, in my experience, with all the horses that I've done in asking these questions, there are only 2 other things that horses have been other than a horse. You can try guessing if you want. So yeah, it's all really interesting. Any other questions on this? Otherwise, I'm going to wrap it up. I just wanted to share that information with you. So if you're coming on late and you missed it, you can watch from the beginning and get the statistics. And I will write it up into a blog post at some point soon, hopefully, and flesh it out a bit more, get a bit more information. This is just a starting point, and hopefully it means that I can help horses on a much deeper level in my sessions, by helping to clear that stuff for them and help them to resolve issues. So I will catch you all next time. Thanks for joining me.